This story is about a woman who goes on what she thought would be a dream trip to Italy with her husband. Instead, things take a cruel turn when he and his friends play a joke that isn't funny at all. They abandon her in a strange town. What begins as humiliation quickly twists into a shocking chain of events she never expected, leading to the ultimate payback. I never imagined that the most humiliating, heartbreaking moment of my life would happen under the warm Italian sun. We had planned this trip for months, my husband, his close friends, and me. I thought it would be a romantic getaway, a chance to explore the cobblestone streets, the old churches, and the markets filled with colors and music. But I didn't know that behind their laughter and smiles, there was a cruel plan. We arrived in a small Italian town, the kind of place you see on postcards, narrow streets winding between stone houses, flowers spilling out of balconies, children chasing each other with gelato in their hands. At first, it felt like a dream. My husband held my hand, and his friends teased me in a way I thought was harmless. But then, while we were wandering through the town square, something shifted. I noticed their whispers, their glances at each other, the smirks they tried to hide. And then it happened. One moment I was standing there looking at a street performer juggling fire, and the next I turned around, and they were gone. Vanished. My husband, my partner, the man I trusted most, had walked away with his friends. At first, I thought maybe they were playing a small prank, that they'd come back in a minute laughing. But the minutes passed. The crowd thinned out. The music of the performer faded. And I was standing there, alone, in a town where I didn't speak the language, without my phone, without a map, without even the faintest idea of how to get back. My heart started pounding. The air felt heavy. People moved past me, talking in Italian, their voices a blur. I searched the faces in every direction, hoping to catch a glimpse of my husband's familiar figure. Nothing. My stomach twisted into knots. And then it hit me, this wasn't an accident. This wasn't a mistake. They had left me here. On purpose. For them, it was a joke. A funny story to tell later. Something they could laugh about over drinks when they got back to the hotel. But for me, it was a nightmare. I felt humiliated. I felt betrayed. The ground beneath me didn't feel solid anymore. My own husband, the man who vowed to love and protect me, had joined in a game designed to break me. I tried to stay calm, but panic rose with every step I took. I didn't know where to go. The streets twisted like a maze, and every corner led to another one that looked the same. The locals smiled politely when I passed, but their eyes told me they knew I didn't belong here. I was an outsider, stranded and helpless. Minutes turned into an hour. My throat went dry, and my legs ached from wandering in circles. The sun beat down mercilessly, and I could feel the sting of tears building in my eyes. But I refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of strangers. If my husband thought I was weak enough to collapse, then he was going to be proven wrong. Still, the humiliation burned. I imagined them sitting somewhere, laughing about it, maybe even taking pictures of me from a distance, waiting to see how long it would take before I broke down. That thought made my blood boil. How could someone who claimed to love me find joy in my suffering? How could he invite his friends into the cruelty of our marriage, turning my pain into their entertainment? But here's the thing about being pushed to your lowest point. You discover parts of yourself you didn't know existed. Standing there, lost and abandoned, something inside me shifted. The fear turned into fire, the humiliation into anger. I realized that if they wanted me to crumble, I was going to do the opposite. So, I straightened my shoulders, wiped my face, and forced myself to breathe. I began to study the town carefully, memorizing landmarks, the shape of the fountain in the square, the pattern of the alleys. Step by step, I pushed myself forward. Every stranger's face became a puzzle piece, every turn a test. And then, something unexpected happened. A kind old woman noticed me standing in confusion and gestured me inside her tiny bakery. She didn't speak a word of English, but she handed me a glass of water, and for a moment, I felt human again. She pointed to a map on the wall and drew a line with her finger, as if guiding me. I thanked her with a trembling smile, even though my voice cracked. That moment changed everything. I realized I wasn't as powerless as my husband wanted me to feel. I had strength.
I had strangers willing to help.
I had the will to survive. And most importantly, I had the burning determination to make sure this betrayal didn't go unpunished. Hours later, when I finally found my way back to the hotel, they were there, my husband and his friends, lounging by the pool, laughing as if nothing had happened. Their faces lit up when they saw me, expecting anger, tears, maybe even a breakdown. But they didn't get any of that. Instead, I smiled. A calm, chilling smile. And in that moment, I knew something they didn't. The game had only just begun. Because they thought this was funny. They thought this was entertainment. But they had no idea that by abandoning me in that small Italian town, they had awakened a side of me they would soon regret ever meeting. That night, as I lay in the hotel room beside my husband, the silence between us was deafening. He drifted off easily, as if nothing had happened, his chest rising and falling with steady breaths. But I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, every laugh, every cruel glance from earlier replaying in my mind. The pain was raw, but the anger was sharper. I realized that if I didn't do something, if I let this go, then I would never respect myself again. And I refused to let their cruelty define me. The next morning, I acted normal. I smiled, joined them at breakfast, listened as they joked about tourists and the day's plans. Not once did they mention what they had done. Not once did my husband apologize. It was as if the entire ordeal had been erased, buried under their arrogance. But that was fine. I needed them comfortable. I needed them to believe I had forgiven, that I was weak enough to accept their behavior. Only then could I deliver the kind of blow they would never see coming. As they spoke, I started noticing their patterns. They were careless. They left their wallets lying around, their phones unguarded, their plans spoken too loudly over coffee. Every detail became fuel. I paid attention, memorizing times, places, routines. If they thought they had stranded me once, they hadn't seen anything yet. That afternoon, we visited another town. The streets were even narrower here, the alleys winding like secrets waiting to be discovered. I walked a step behind them, my face calm, but inside I was burning. I remembered every moment of being lost and afraid, every second of humiliation. And when the opportunity came, I seized it. My husband and his friends stopped at a bar to grab drinks. They left me outside on a bench, casually telling me to wait like a good girl. My fists clenched, but my lips curved into a smile.
Perfect.
While they were distracted, I slipped away. This time, not because I was abandoned, but because I wanted to vanish. I ducked into a side alley, heart racing, and disappeared into the maze of the town. I didn't panic. I didn't cry. Instead, I used the anger inside me as fuel. I wandered until I found a small shop that sold postcards, maps, and bus tickets. And there it was, my escape route. I bought a ticket to a nearby coastal city, a place they hadn't planned to visit, and boarded the bus without hesitation. As the bus pulled away, I imagined their faces when they came out and couldn't find me. The confusion, the disbelief, the panic slowly setting in. They wanted to see how I'd handle being left behind? Well, now it was their turn. By the time they realized I was gone, I was already standing on a breathtaking coastline, waves crashing against the rocks, the salty breeze in my hair. I checked into a modest guest house, paid in cash, and turned off every possible trail they could use to find me. For the first time since the nightmare began, I felt in control. Meanwhile, their calls and messages started flooding in, angry, desperate, mocking at first, then slowly shifting to fear. My husband's words went from, "Where are you? This isn't funny," to "Please just tell me you're safe," and finally to, "I can't believe you would do this." The irony made me laugh. He couldn't believe I would do this? He had left me stranded in a foreign town, and yet he thought only he had the right to play games? The next day, I decided to take it further. I sent him a single message. "Now you know how it feels." No explanation. No reassurance. Just those 6 words. I imagined him staring at his phone, his friends circling around, realizing that their little joke had spiraled into something far bigger than they could handle. But my revenge wasn't about disappearing forever. It was about letting them feel powerless, letting them drown in the same fear and humiliation they had forced on me. So, after 2 days of silence, I returned. But not quietly. When I walked back into the hotel lobby, every eye turned toward me. My husband jumped to his feet, his face pale, his friends speechless. For once, their laughter was gone. He rushed to me, reaching out as if to hug me, but I stopped him with a single look. A look that said everything: disgust, betrayal, strength. In front of everyone, I said the words that had been burning in me since that day in the town square. You thought it was funny to leave me stranded. You thought it was a joke. But the truth is, you showed me who you really are. And now, I see you more clearly than ever. The silence that followed was heavier than any shout. His friends shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my eyes. My husband stammered, trying to explain, trying to turn it into a misunderstanding. But no excuse could erase what he had done. I walked past him, straight to the reception desk, and checked out of the hotel. The look on his face as I wheeled my suitcase out the door was the sweetest victory I had ever tasted. For once, I was not the powerless one. For once, he was the one left standing there, abandoned, humiliated, broken. And that was the moment I knew my life was about to change. Because this wasn't just about a trip to Italy. It wasn't just about a cruel prank. It was about respect, about love, about dignity. And the man I had married had proven he didn't deserve any of it. As the taxi pulled away, the town fading into the distance, I felt lighter than I had in years. Betrayal had cut me open, but from that wound, strength had poured out. I was no longer the woman who stood lost and trembling in a foreign square. I was the woman who had survived, who had taken back control, who had turned pain into power. And deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. Because sometimes, when the people you love the most push you to the edge, you don't fall. You fly.